Welcome to the Bulls Guys podcast. I am your host, Kenyatta and this is my co-host, Mr. Greg Love.
What's going on?
Beat down Greg, but we have to be here to cover it. We're going to lay it all out when we come back.
How do you feel about the Bulls? How would you like to be on our show, the Bulls Guys podcast, and give your thoughts on the team? Send us your emails at talkingbulls82@gmail.com, and we'll be glad to have you on. The Bulls Guys podcast, formerly known as the Talking Bulls podcast, the most up-to-date Bulls news, rants, and in-your-face, blunt opinions. Follow us on YouTube, Anchor, and all social media platforms.
We're back on the Bulls Guys podcast, and Greg, I was actually at the game. For those Bulls fans and listeners that don't know, I'm a Philadelphia resident right now at the moment. And I had the unfortunate opportunity to see this atrocity in person. And, man, I don't know where to start. I don't even think we even need to go into stats, man. The Bulls just need to do everything better. I seen guys just allowing guys to get right to the basket. We can't keep nobody in front of us. James Harden was just taking everybody to the rack. Maxey was taking everybody to the rack. Ayo wasn't even prepared. Maxey just was blowing right by him, getting layups. Then DeRozan just ran up the court, didn't even use the shot clock and just forced the shot. Zach LaVine, instead of like taking shots, he was passing it off and being passive, wasn't attacking the rim. I think every single thing that could go wrong went wrong in this game, Greg. And it's getting to a point now, you lost 4 in a row. I don't even see no hunger from you or no pride or no resentment that you're losing. I don't see no heartache in your eyes. I just see a whatever. We might have to change this team in the offseason, Greg. It's like, because how do you drop from number 1 to number 4? And if we lose any more games, we might drop to 5. So for a team like us that was just in the number 1 spot, how do we accept being number 5? I just don't know how that happens. But the Bulls seemed like they were close in the first half. You know, it was kind of close, and then the Sixers was just getting away with just too much, hitting 3-point shots. Then you had Tobias Harris had a wide open dunk at the rim. Nobody to guard him, nobody to block his shot. And Tristan Thompson was supposed to have been brought in to provide that defensive presence in the paint, Greg. And he didn't help at all. And Beat was just taking him to the rim and dunked on him one time, and then shot a jumper in his face and was just toying with Tristan Thompson. So that was our defensive answer, and he doesn't seem to be. I don't know what we're going to do, Greg, but I can tell you this. The guys that are out, they're not going to correct all of these mistakes that we're making as a team.
Yeah. I mean, I know you said there's no point in looking at the stats, but if you were to just purely look at the stats and not have watched the game, you would think the Bulls played pretty well. Like, you wouldn't think the score would reflect it, because if we look at it, they out-rebounded the Sixers by 10. The Sixers only had 6 more points in the paint than the Bulls did. Right. And the Bulls scored more points off turnovers. They only had 3 more turnovers for the entire game. If you just purely look at the stats, it looks like it would have been a fairly close game. Like you said, you were in person, of course, you got to see that it was a real different game. I would say this, to me, it just looked like a combination of things, because if we look at the Sixers, for the most part, they just got killed by Embiid. Everybody else didn't really shoot that well. Like you said, even bringing up Maxey and Harden. Yeah, if we look at the numbers, Maxey was 6 for 13. Harden was 5 for 15. Right, like, it's not like anybody was really killing them other than Embiid. Tobias Harris was 4 for 10 for only 8 points, right? Like I said, the numbers look like, okay, you just need to stop Embiid. A sense of, even with Caruso and Lonzo and Pat coming back, it's not going to help some of the just straight up dumb defensive mistakes that they're making.
Yeah.
Right? Like we talked about effort. We talked about, just fouling for no reason, just lack of defense. And I say this with Io, and Will Purdue made a good point about this. I think the league is starting to adjust to Io, that they realize, okay, straight up, he's a very good defender one-on-one. But what they've been doing is running him off a lot of screens. Like you
Yeah.
said, they're not allowing Io to just play you one-on-one, because during the season you saw that he holds his own against a lot of these top tier perimeter guys.
Mhm.
So I think, the combination of all of that, bottom line, the Bulls need to play better defensively, stop making so many dumb mistakes, stop just letting guys just get free runs to the lane, defend the pick and roll better. Lonzo and Caruso are going to help with that, of course, but at the same time, you can't just sit up here and just be like, oh, well, when they get back, because right now we don't even know when they're coming back, right? Like, we have an idea, but it's not like they're just going to immediately get put in the lineup and play heavy minutes, right? Like, you have to work your way back into the lineup. So in the meantime, with the guys that we have, they need to step up. That's the bottom line.
Not only that, man, these standards are close, bro. And you losing 5 straight games in a row. It's like they're not coming back next week. They're gonna be out for a little bit. They're gonna be out, I think, until like the end of this month, or like a week before the end of this month. So you have to play at least 2 weeks, put together 2 weeks of solid basketball at least.
Yep.
You can't be losing 5 in a row, bro. We didn't even get the next week. Now, if you drop like 2 games a week, we probably could survive that. But dropping a handful of games in 1 week, and it's 2 weeks before these guys come back. And I mentioned this in one of the podcasts, Greg, that they don't want to be waiting for guys, because you don't know when they're going to come back. And I don't think they're going to be back by the time it's time for you to play in the playoffs or whatever. Because I heard Lonzo Ball, like you said, covered the last podcast, Greg, that you were on. He might take a little bit more time because he's recovering and have to go through rehab. So they're depending on guys that are injured. And just to be honest, the guys that are out, I don't see them correcting a lot of the mistakes that we're making. Yeah. It's just we're not guarding at the rim. First of all, we're getting out hustled by bigs, and that falls on AK's shoulders. And I feel like his demons have come back to haunt him, because I, for some reason, felt like he was being a stubborn old man by not bringing in what he knew we needed at the deadline, and it's gonna bite him in the ass. And if it's not doing it already. I mean, instead of Miles Turner, you elected to take Tristan Thompson instead in the buyout market. Dude, like, if y'all were really invested in winning, that was not a smart move. Then we had big men that were helping us, and Stanley Johnson and Cook, and you got rid of both of them. When we're struggling to get rebounds and we're struggling to get hustle plays, you got rid of 2 of our best hustlers that we had on the roster at the beginning of the year. So the way I'm seeing it, Greg, is that this management and this coaching staff are not really invested on the inside interior defense, the big man game. They're not invested in that. They think that they seriously can win with small ball. And how many defeats like this is it going to take before you to realize that that's not the case? Like I said, so a lot of people online, on Twitter, on my Bullseye Facebook group, all around, I've been saying this to people for the last year. This is not 2015. You cannot win with jump shots alone anymore. The Warriors are even struggling, Greg.
Yeah, but I mean, even looking at the Warriors, they were one of the top defensive teams while they were playing small ball. So I don't even, if you look beyond that, it's not even the same. I think nobody was really looking deep into what they were doing. But I mean, really, the way I look at it right now, what's done is done. They didn't make any significant moves at the trade deadline. We got to roll with this squad for the rest of the season, right? Like that is what it is.
Okay, so let me ask you a question, Greg.
Okay.
Let's say this team misses the playoffs after being number 1 in the Eastern Conference most of the year. You think they're going to be able to just use injuries as the reason why that happened?
Do I think they? Well, I guess.
Is that going to fly? Are they going to be able to really use that as an excuse? Because I don't think they should be able to.
Do I think they should be able to? No. Do I think they're going to? Yes. Like those are
But
two
why? But
very
why?
different
But let
things.
me ask. Hold on. Why don't you think they should be able to?
No, I don't think they should be able to.
Why
I don't
not?
think they
Why not?
should be able to. I mean, because everybody's injured, right? Like everybody's had people out. Shouldn't matter,
That's
right?
not
Like
the answer that I had, Greg. The
I
answer that
mean,
I had is that they had a chance to improve the team at the deadline and did not take it.
I mean, even still, they looked at their injuries and said, "Oh well, when these guys come back, I guess they figured when these guys come back that they'll be better." Because Billy Donovan even made the statement that as far as all these guys, Lonzo, Pat, Vooch, DeMar, Zach, Caruso, they've only played 16 games together the entire season, right? And I'm pretty sure that's the same line of thinking that AK has. Well, we don't know what this team really, really looks like because we've only had all our guys for 16 games. I'm pretty sure that's how the line of thinking's going. To me, I look at the Bulls like
You're still not
that.
invested. You're still not invested, though, Greg. You know why I say that? Because, okay, let's say, yes, okay, these guys were, as far as if they were healthy, they were the champs of the Eastern Conference and could get to the finals. They're not together, though. They're not there. So it's like, okay, it is what it is. What's done is done. You harping on the fact that they're injured and they waiting on them to come back when they're not going to be back until April. So if we wait on them, Greg, we might not even make the playoffs. So that's not smart. You should have still got somebody to come in here and keep the slack going until those guys were able to come back. And that's not what they did. They went to the development league and got wing players. They didn't get one player that could help us on the inside. To
That's
me,
true.
go ahead.
I'm saying that's true, but I mean, we're also the way we talked about it during the trade deadline, and we talked about the the tradable assets that they really had
Mm-hmm.
were Kobe and Pat, right? Like if we're
Right.
being honest, that's that's the bargaining chips that they had to trade with, right?
Right.
And you said it yourself, you're not ready to give up Pat, right?
But I did
So,
say I was ready to give up Kobe.
right, but you're assuming that somebody else will want to take him, right? Like that may have been the issue. That it might not even have been that they weren't willing to give up Kobe. It may have been that nobody wanted to take Kobe in whatever combination that they wanted to put together, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like if he was going to be the centerpiece, that may have been what stopped them from making the move, right? Like we don't really know, right? Like, and what if, Indiana or whoever, right? Like the Kings, if they were like, we want Pat in the first round pick and Kobe, and AK looked at it was like, no, I'm not doing that. Right. And they're like, okay, well, no deal. And then his hand is forced to where if everybody's like, no, we want Pat, no, we don't want Kobe, or we want Kobe and just, your next, I'm exaggerating, but let's say your next 7 first round picks, right? Like, no, he's not going to make that deal. That's
Mm-hmm.
very well what could have happened and what kind of handicapped him from being able to make some of these moves. Now, I agree with you in the fact that, even in scouring the G League, right? Like, I'm sure there are big men in the G League, right? Like that is something that is very true as well. But I mean, it does. I don't know if it means that they're not necessarily invested in this. Is it that they want to play small ball? I don't know. I kind of look at it looked like a Billy Donovan thing to me and being insistent on playing small ball, even when, even when you brought interest in Thompson, at least for the first couple games, you're still playing small ball. So I don't know. Is it a Billy Donovan thing? Is it an AK thing? I'm not sure. Bottom line is, like I said, we got to roll with this squad for the rest of the season. And, regardless if we had, 1,000 bigs or whatever we got, the fact that they're making dumb mistakes, a big isn't going to change that,
It's
right? Like
not.
you're just going to get these guys in foul trouble because you're allowing people to have free runs to the lane because you can't guard pick and roll. You're not giving the effort. A big's not going to change that problem.
Mm-hmm.
So what they need to do is buckle down, get in the guys defensively, and just get back to the fundamentals instead of sitting up there trying to play, 21 or make it take like, okay, you guys score, are we gonna come back and score? Nah, get out of that mentality. Try to dig in the guys, play some defense. And I understand there's some frustration, especially on the offensive end when calls aren't going your way, right? But at the end of the day, you got to play through that because we're on this 5-game losing streak and we got to break that somehow, right? Like it's going to start on the defensive end. Once that gets going, like I've been saying, once your defense gets going and flowing, the offense is going to kick in and you're going to kick it into high gear.
Well, there was some stories that was looming around that Robin Lopez was supposed to be targeted to be placed on his team. If I was AK, I would have went after him. I mean, you can't have enough bigs, especially the way that this team gets killed in the paint. I listen, if you would have got 3 bigs from the bottom market, that would have been good. I was looking at Ibaka and what he's doing with the Bucks against the Suns the other night, this past Sunday. We should have picked him up, Greg.
That was a trade, though.
We should have traded for him.
I mean, again, we don't know what they wanted, right?
Like they asked for Pat, they should be dropped dead in this and then where they stand. You can't ask for Pat for no Ibaka.
They can ask what they want to ask, if we're being honest, right? Like,
but it ain't logical.
I'm saying though, I think
Ibaka's washed up, man. He's just a role player at this point.
But in that case, though, right? Like, if you're the team, like if you're the Raptors or whoever, right? Like, or if you're the Clippers, like you have the leverage in that case, right? Like you want my guy. I'm gonna ask for what I'm gonna swing for the fences. Okay, you don't want it, fine, that's fine. I'm gonna keep him. You need him, not me. Right, like that's how it is. If we're being honest, that's exactly how I would play it. If somebody came calling about Pat or Kobe or whoever, all right, let me look at your roster. Right, like I might be like, if the Suns called about Kobe, give me Chris Paul, give me Devin Booker. Okay, that's what I'm gonna say. Now you may have to talk me down, but you want my guy, right? Like he's already on my squad, so you're gonna have to start giving me what I want in order to get my guy. Otherwise, I could just move on to another deal because that's how it is. So,
well, the thing is with me is that we had a game against the Bucks the other night, and shout out to Derrick Jones Jr. who came and walked into my job today, and I actually talked to him and. Had a couple words with him about the foul on Alex Caruso and asked him if it was on purpose, and he bust out laughing. And pretty cool guy, and said he's going to try to get on the podcast with us. And I actually linked up on his Instagram and everything like that. Also, fans, like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. It helps us to keep bringing you great content, and also comment below on the show. But yeah, meeting him was incredible today, and I told him I wanted us to win tonight. But honestly, Greg, now that I got that out the way, shout out to Derrick Jones Jr., really nice guy. He played okay tonight, but for the most part, against the Bucks the other night, I felt like we had a shot to win that game. So your point is right, Greg. I don't think we're losing because guys are out. I think we're losing because of mental mistakes and mental errors. And the reason why I'm not willing to accept these errors right now, Greg, is because we're on game, 63? Bro, like 64, 65. Help me out, Greg. Game 65, right? Bro, it's come on. This is not like the 20th game of the season where you're just starting the season. You guys have been together for most of the year. I don't care who's out. The guys that are playing together have been together all year. Why do you look lost? Why do you look like you're just starting to play with each other? Greg Harden, James Harden just went over to Philadelphia. He don't look lost. He looked like he'd been over there all year playing with them guys. It's a continuity that you have to have as a team. You have to have an understanding. You have to talk. You have to help play defense. You have to talk to each other out there when one of them is slipping up. Hey, Kobe, you were supposed to drop back and get this guy on defense. Make sure you do that next time. I need these guys to talk to each other and communicate out there, man. It's just like they're just running around like chickens with their heads cut off and not thinking.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. Like I said, mental mistakes. I think at this point it's really more mental than anything because it's just dumb things, dumb fouls, just stuff like that. Like there was one play where, Embiid was coming down the lane, Zach fouled him. He had a chance to take the charge, like it was there. It looked like he was going to, and then the last second he was like, "Nah, I'm gonna just hack him." All right, like mental mistake. But as I look at it and look at some of these losses that the Bulls have had, especially, that right now they're 0-14 against the top 3 seeds in both conferences, right? Like, if we kind of look at it, other than, the blowout against Brooklyn, blowout against Golden State, blowout against Memphis, they've been in a lot of these games, right? Like,
but they also had a lot of terrible losses in the beginning of the year against the Rockets and the Magic, two blowouts, which that should have never happened. Then the blowout against Indiana. No, I'm just saying, Greg, that when you come down the stretch and it's kind of tight, those kind of losses come back to bite you in the ass.
Yeah, I'm not disagreeing with that point. I'm just saying, looking at it and trying to be optimistic. the way I look at it, okay, I know we can hang with these teams, right? If
Mhm.
we cut out these mental mistakes and these dumb errors, we should probably be able to beat some of these teams, right? Like if we're being honest, we just gotta cut the crap, right? Like that's really what it comes down to. Just cut the crap. Do what you need to do. Do your job, right? Like do your job. Do what you're supposed to do, because play defense hard, right? Like that is a Chicago staple, that lunch pail get to work type of town, right? Like play
Mhm.
defense. We built up on defense all around, and look at any of the sports teams in Chicago. Is defense first, offense second, right? Like go ahead, get into some guys, play better defense, get some turnovers, make it hard on guys, right? Like if you're able to do that, if we look at it, if we play better defense, yeah, we should have beat the Sixers. We played better defense, we could have beat the Bucks, but we can beat these teams, right? Like if we cut out the dumb mental errors, because it's not like we've really been out of some of these games or we've made these furious comebacks, but we just can't get a stop, right? Like because it's just a blown play. Like even taking out some of the horrendous calls by the referee or no calls, we've still been in a lot of these games, right? Like we just need to play better defense, bottom line.
Mhm.
So I feel like when the defense tightens up, then you'll start to see these wins start to pile up. And I feel like the Bulls are starting to come back down to earth a little bit. I'm not saying they overachieved, right? Because you said like on one of the first episodes of the podcast that you felt like the Bulls could be the best team in the East, right? And I think I said that I predicted them somewhere around where they're at now, 4 or 5, 6, or somewhere in there.
Mhm.
Um, I think they've come back down to earth. Now they're capable of climbing back up to the 1 seed. Yeah, absolutely. It's not like, I think they're 4.5 games back right now. Not a huge deficit, right? Like you could turn that around in a week. So
Yeah, but they got to start playing basketball, and I'm
yeah.
talking about. Listen, those days where we were beating on inferior competition, those days are done, bro. It's already been established that we have the second hardest schedule in the league. So everybody from this point is going to be mostly playoff teams that you have to pay attention to and you have to come to play against. And I don't mean just show up and say whatever happens is just no. You have to make sure you come with effort and make these teams work for these wins. I can't honestly say that the Sixers, the Bucks, worked hard for these victories. I can't say Atlanta worked hard for their victory against us. They were down, and we had to crack for them to win. We were up in the Bucks game. We were up in this game. The Bulls got to figure out what are they doing right. Go and look at tape at what you're doing right, and find a way to continue doing that. There's something that teams are doing against you that's stopping you from being effective. You have to figure out what that is. They didn't give you these leads on purpose in these games. There was a reason why you were up. It's the Bulls' business to find out why they were up in these games, Greg.
To me, it seems like what teams have done is adjusted to DeMar DeRozan.
Right.
On this 5-game losing streak, DeMar shot over 50% one time.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're looking at that, right, like they're adjusting to what he's doing, and with Zach being somewhat hobbled, based on what he says, is hobbled and Vooch in and out of the lineup, and no, you're not getting a real consistent second offensive score, right? Like I think that's been the issue a little bit on offense. You might have to switch it up as far as what DeMar is doing to get him better looks. You might have to start running him off of screens, or getting him off the ball a little bit more and having him move around to get to his spots, just to switch it up so he can get some of his mid-range looks instead of just standing and posting up or kind of running that one-on-one type of offense, because I think it's starting to show after he went on that tear before the All-Star break. Now teams are like, nah, we're not going to give you those easy shots. And some of them he's missed. I'll say that too. But at the same time, like I said, you had 6, 7, 8, 9 straight games where you're shooting over 50%.
So
Now you have one game where you just shot 50%, not even over.
Right.
So
I'm gonna blame two sides for that. I'm gonna blame Billy Donovan for not forcing him to find other guys when he doesn't have it, and I'm also gonna blame DeMar DeRozan because No, not DeMar DeRozan, his teammates. Because his teammates are supposed to be able to knock down shots when he's in trouble.
Mm-hmm.
We couldn't double Joel Embiid tonight. Why couldn't we? Because his other guys stepped up when we doubled him. Every time we doubled somebody on their team tonight, the other guys made us pay for it. And that's how the Bulls have to be. You can't just rely on two guys and just say if they don't hit a jumper, we done. The rest of you guys have to hit shots. That's what's going to make their job easier. Basketball is a simple game, like Stacey King always says, and this really is a simple game. If those rest of those guys knock down shots, they can't double those two guys. So that leaves those guys on the island themselves playing one-on-one. And I take DeMar DeRozan and Zach LaVine against a lot of players one-on-one in this league.
Yeah, and I think in going back to Zach, even with him being hot, but I found that there's times where he just gets jump shot happy.
Mm-hmm.
And from what I've seen, when he decides to go to the basket, he gets to the basket pretty easy.
And he did that tonight because he had a couple dunks and he had a couple layups and he had a couple. He got fouled a couple times, but maybe because his knee is bothering him, he don't want to take too much contact because he's playing injured. But I don't need you shooting them jump shots, bro. Like if you can't go to the rack, then you need to sit down. But you're not. I think that step back, when he gets you with that step back and that fake, it's like he hits more shots doing that. But when you on him, it's hard for him to make a shot with contact on him.
Yeah, and I think a little bit of his some frustration comes from him not getting some of these calls.
Right.
Because I've seen him when he does get to the rim, he's getting hit, and the referees are holding on to that whistle. Yeah. And I think it does kind of get frustrating. I mean, you've seen the frustration on him.
I have my opinions on that, too. I think the Bulls organization as a whole, they really need to start speaking up. I don't know if it's going to help because they do this to a lot of teams, and this is going to make us look like a bunch of crybabies. But I feel like we have a legitimate argument. We could pull up a lot of calls against us that were not called. And I feel like we're being targeted, bro. Like our dudes is getting hit and getting bodied, and you're not calling foul. Even when it's on our floor, you're giving Milwaukee more calls in our floor like we're in Milwaukee. And I'm not saying be biased towards us because we're in Chicago, but how did we only shoot 11 fouls and they shot 33? Why? Because Tristan Thompson said he's going to foul such and such. That shouldn't weigh on your decision to blow the whistle. If a call is a call, call it. And I feel like they have not been consistent on our end. But every time on the opposite end, when we're guarding teams, they're very quick to blow their whistle for little small stuff when things are not even a foul. So how can you not see these obvious calls, but you're looking for something at the other end to call? So that makes it look like, to me, I don't want to accuse them, but it looked like to me like you're fixing the game in the other team's favor because we're getting hit and we're driving to the rim and we're getting hit. I've seen the Bulls get hit a couple times tonight, and they didn't get any fouls. Listen, man, it got to be consistent. It's hard enough that we got guys out and we're fighting, but we can't fight against the team that we're fighting against injured, undermanned, and the refs. It's like, that's hard, bro. And I just feel like the league is just sinking us because they know we're vulnerable right now. You're not giving us calls, and teams are clearly following us. And listen, if they got this whole team intact and we don't, they should be able to beat us with fair calls. But you're giving them extra advantages. It's like we definitely can't beat them then. We're trying to pull a miracle out of our hat being undermanned. So it's like, I don't know, Greg. I don't know what they can do about that. But if I was the Bulls organization, I would complain that we're not getting a fair shake. If Harden is able to send tapes to the league because he's not getting fouls, why shouldn't the Bulls be able to do that? And then they changed the rules back, huh?
I said I agree with you.
They changed the rules back as soon as he sent that tape in. So we should do the same thing because I'm tired of seeing Zach get hit and don't get no calls. He's an all-star, a two-time all-star. He's a superstar in this league. You better give him some calls. I'm sorry, man. He deserves calls. If you're going by your analogy that stars only get fouls, he's a star. So why ain't he getting calls? Oh, because he wearing a Bulls uniform? I just feel like it's something against us, man. I don't know why I'm thinking like that, but it just feels like that, Greg. I don't see any other team in the league that they miss this many calls against. I mean, try to think of somebody. I can't think of no other team.
No, you're right. I can't think of anybody.
They miss calls with everybody, but I mean, they miss a lot with the Bulls. A lot.
To be honest, and I'm not trying to make this as an excuse or seem like I'm trying to give the Bulls a pass on anything and blame it on the refs. But at the same
No,
time,
I've spent.
I don't even know if they're missing calls or if they're just ignoring it, because like some of these are just like, if I can see this on the TV, right? Like looking at the TV, like, and you're standing right there and you're not calling it.
Mhm.
It's what is the issue? What do these guys have to do? Like, I've seen Zach and DeMar just get like whacked in the head. I mean, it looks like WWE out there sometimes, and they just won't call it, and I don't know what it is, because like to say I feel like to say you missed the call is like, oh, okay, my bad, I didn't see it, or some, like, no, like some of this stuff is obvious and you just not calling it, and I don't know what's up with that.
But I don't, like you said just now. We made a good point, because I've spent the most of the podcast ripping the Bulls players. I'm not gonna put this all on officiating, but let's not act like officiating has not been playing a part, because it has been. That Bucks game, they took 3 free throws away from Zach while he got fouled while he was in the act of shooting. And I'm saying to myself, he clearly was in the air shooting the ball. How can it be on the side, ball inbound on the side, when he got fouled shooting? It's automatic free throws, dude. It's no way that he should be taking that ball out on the side. So it's calls like that. I'm like, how did you make that mistake? He didn't get fouled until he was in the air shooting the ball. So it's automatic free throws. So plays like that, I played the game, Greg. I know it was bogus. I know it's bogus. They're out there making up their own stuff. Like, you can't put the ball on the side when a guy was in the air. He didn't even shoot the ball, and he got fouled while he was shooting the ball. So I was confused by that. And then he came down, and Giannis bumped him on a free throw, or bumped him on a layup, and he had another foul call, and they didn't give him he had another foul on him, and they didn't honor that foul. He made the layup to cut it to 2, but then that I think that extra point would have helped and cut the game to 1. So all of these points matter.
Yeah. I mean, especially when you're playing these top teams in the East, or I mean in the league, and the margin of error is so small, right? Like every point matters. Really.
But this is the thing: the Bulls can't go out into these games looking for that. They got to come out and be aggressive, regardless. They got to have an attitude. Okay, you're not gonna call it, just like they said about Shaquille O'Neal. Well, I forgot which announcer said it. They said Shaquille O'Neal used to punish players. He said, "Oh, you're not gonna call it." He used to run over guys and get offensive fouls on purpose to make guys feel it. If you're not gonna call it, I'm gonna punish these guys. Go at people. Throw your body in there. I just think our players, to a certain degree, are scared to get hit. Because some of them are fragile, let's be honest. You know what I'm saying? They're scared to get hit. We need Alex Caruso back in that sense, because Alex Caruso, he's a dog, man. He's going to go in there. He's going to be a grizzly bear. Listen, you ain't going to call it, I'm still going to attack the rim. So I'm saying we need players like that to force the issue, man. But in that sense, we need those guys back. Man, but can we hold up in the next 2 weeks until they get back, Greg? I doubt it. Losing at this rate.
I think so. I mean, because I think, in coming up, I don't want to call it a break so much in the schedule, but we got Detroit, we got Toronto, we got the Lakers, we got Houston, Toronto. My bad. We got Detroit, Cleveland, Sacramento. So, I mean, that Detroit game is a little bit of a break, I would say. Sacramento, like, even though it's been a tight game, okay, it's a little, as far as competition, right? Like, it's a little bit of a step down. Cleveland, okay, it's gonna be a tough game. So
this might sound weird to you. I don't like the fact that we're playing lighter competition, because when we play, since it's been established, Greg, that we
play
lost
down to the competition.
But since it's been established that we lost how many? We're 0-14 against the top 2 teams in each conference.
The top 3 teams in both conferences.
Since that has been established, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not really interested when we play bad teams, because I expect to beat them. I want to see the Bulls against teams that I don't expect them to beat, because I like the challenge. So
you still got it. We still got a game against Phoenix. We got Milwaukee. a couple times. We still got one more against Miami.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so you still get the chance, and then Boston's surging too. So we got another game against Boston, and of course Cleveland's in the mix as a playoff team too. So we still get some chances to go at these good teams. But right now I think a game and it's the NBA, anything could happen, right? But I think a nice blowout against Detroit could do wonders for the Bulls' confidence right now.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, that's kind of how I looked at it. Not like I said, not that it's really a reprieve or anything, but going up again, I think that'll help, right? Like if you're going up against guys like, okay, we definitely should beat them. We need to, especially reestablish ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is a good game to kind of do that, as opposed to like if you had to go back to a Milwaukee or go up against a Phoenix. That's a little bit tougher to do. Not that they can't do it, not that they're not capable of doing it, not that they shouldn't do it, because they should go into it like that. But I think this is a good way to kind of like, okay, let's get back to our winning ways. Go back, look at, like you said, look at the tape. What are we doing well? What are we not doing well? Because I think your margin for error is a little bit larger with a team like Detroit than it would be against some of these upper echelon teams. So I think establishing those good habits will be good too, against these teams who I think are going to be prone to make more mistakes.
Well, that's the end of our show tonight, Greg. I don't want to elaborate about this too much. Who do the Bulls play next, Greg?
We got Detroit next on Wednesday.
Yeah, and I'm guessing that's a win, but who cares? I want to see us beat some good teams, but I'm just being a brat, man. Meeting Derrick Jones Jr. today and then going to the game myself, and I had nosebleeds, but I'm gonna tell you, Bulls fans, something that you ever been to nosebleed seats, man. You can see a lot all the way up in the sky like that. You can see almost every single thing that's going on, being on the top of the court like that. So it was far seats, but it was really, really good seats, man. It wasn't as bad as I thought, but that was my first time sitting in nosebleeds since I've been going to games. I'm usually on the floor or lower level. I've never been that far up. But based on the way the Bulls were playing, man, I was kind of like, trying to pry my wallet out of my pocket, Greg.
Yeah, I mean, I've sat in the higher seats, and like you said, you can see the whole court, so you can see things develop, and like you said, you do get that bird's eye view of some of these bad habits,
right?
And look, you can see, like all these back cuts coming and all that. You can see all of that, so I do think, as somebody who goes and tries to analyze the game, like even beyond being a fan, right? Like somebody who looks at the game and looks at the nuances and looks at the details of it, right? Like having that kind of bird's eye view is like really helpful, as opposed to being a little bit closer. Like you can still see it, but I guess not as well, because you're not seeing the entire
I'm telling you personally, I've been to a lot of sporting events, and I've always had a blind spot, even though I sat close. This was the first time that I seen the entire floor and seen every single thing that was going on from the nosebleeds. I seen everything, Greg. I seen the back cuts. I seen guys not picking up guys. I seen when DeRozan came down and he wasn't even looking, and he just went right into the double team and just took the quick shot. I seen almost every single thing they were doing wrong. They were letting guys blow right by them. AO wasn't paying attention. Maxey caught him off guard, just blew right to the hole and for a layup, because Io was paying attention to something on the other side. I seen all of that. I seen all of that sitting all the way up there. So maybe I'll get another nosebleed seat one time.
Yeah, like I said, you do get to see the entire court. So yeah, I agree with you on that.
Well, thank you for joining us, Bulls fans. Also, like we said, please like and subscribe to my 76ers fans that also subscribe to the podcast. Well, not Sixers fans. I believe one of them were a Knicks fan and one of them was a Brooklyn Nets fan that I met at the game. Said they were going to join the podcast and show us some support. Shout out to you guys if you were listening. It was good to meet you guys tonight. And thanks for joining us tonight. And Greg?
Yeah, thank you for hanging in there with us and being, avid listeners of our work. Please go ahead and share with your friends, share with your family, share with that one coworker that you really don't like. Maybe, after listening to us, you guys may bond a little bit, or at least you can find them a little bit less insufferable because you have something in common to talk about.
Mm-hmm. And we're very, very much appreciative of everybody that has subscribed to our podcast. Some of you that's looking for us to be to a certain level, we just ask that you be patient with us. We're still a new podcast, and we're still trying to get the feel of this. Me and Greg are, slowly gaining stronger chemistry as we go along, and we promise we will get better and better and better as we go along. But glad you're supporting us regardless through all of this.
Yes, thank you very much. We appreciate you. We appreciate each and every fan, each and every listen and like that you give us.
Yep. Good night, Chicago. Go Bulls.
Go Bulls.